guys, and welcome back to the next episode of the Total War podcast. Today we'll be talking about the gameplay of the battles of Total War, spanning from the original Shogun all the way to Shogun Fall of the Samurai. We have a couple of new YouTubers with us today. We have one that you haven't met before. We got Tom over here.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so just a little introduction about yourself, Tom.
Yeah, I call myself First-In, also known as Tom. I just do commentaries for mostly Total War games, and yeah, that's about it really.
Cool. So he's also Australian, so that's mad. We also have WhiteEagle.
Hi guys, back.
Yep. We have SaphirePheonix.
Hey there.
ColdMeat.
Wow, ColdMeat 247 here. Hey Marcus.
And we also have, of course, DiplexHeated.
Hey, what's up?
Yep. So, like we said, we're going to be talking about the battles of Total War and the animations and the tactics we all personally use and stuff like that. So we hope you guys enjoy it. So, who wants to start off first with a specific Total War game?
Specific? You guys want to start maybe with the old games?
Yeah, let's go from the from back to today, from the start.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So who played the first Shogun or the first medieval Total War?
Yep.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah. Well, we'll kick it off with the original one. I played the original one ages ago, and obviously it was very basic back then. I can't remember how finely tuned it was. Like if it really was stat driven. Like I know how like in the newer Shogun it's a lot of rock paper scissors. But back then I think it actually was a lot more stat driven, where everything had like 0.2 of a difference and stuff like that. Back then when it was very complicated. Like you wouldn't have a lot of kids playing that game, of course. It's actually MA over here, MA rated, which is crazy because you could just like capture people and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pretty good. Obviously the animations are old and it was like the 2D sliding images where it looks like their feet would just glide across the ground. But it was good, obviously, for us. I'm pretty sure it's groundbreaking for its time to have that many units on the screen, doing something. But yeah, it was pretty good. I think Medieval was a big upgrade though. So, who played that one? The original Medieval.
For me, Medieval. Yeah, Medieval was a big upgrade. I gotta agree with you, Marcus, because finally we got some kind of a 3D thing going on.
Yeah.
The troops really look good at this point. So we got pretty excited when we started our first battles, but for the AI side of thing, the computer was still just, making one line and charging in. a bit like we have in a couple of games still right now.
Yeah.
And Chris, you played that for a while, so I don't know if you. The thing is, I don't know. The computer didn't balance really his army or anything like that. Or was sending armies that were really weak to attack, so that was a bit weird. Or just playing defensive. Honestly, the computer with me only just played defensive, so sit in his territory and wait for the attack. That was long and boring.
Yeah, that seemed to happen with the much earlier games, where they only had like two strategies.
I think what we got to remember though is that at the time, if you compare it to games that came up before it, it's completely revolutionary. No one had ever played a PC game like this before, or even made one. So, the style of the gameplay was completely new. Well, I wouldn't say completely new, but it was in the scale. It was completely different. So we sort of have to compare it to the games that came before it. I mean, obviously we're used to better things now, but I think we should probably compare it to games that were before it.
It's hard to compare though. It's really hard to compare with any games that came out before, because what we have in Total War, the campaign map, I mean, we used to play other Risk type of game, but we didn't have that kind of campaign map before, where we had to build everything, move stuff around, and finally the battles. I mean, I don't remember any other games giving us this kind of battles, not to this size, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's brought in a lot of the fans though. Just this new way to actually go down and command your troops instead of leaving it to a roll of the dice. Roll the dice. So that brought in a lot of people to see this new style of gameplay. I think, like you said, that from memory, I can't remember any other game that was, because obviously Total War prides itself off that fact that you command those troops to that certain area, and then you go down and fight it on that where you are. And then obviously as time moved on and the graphics got better, it slowly got to the point where you really saw wherever you were on the map, that translated to the what the battlefield was like, which blew my mind in the original Rome, where if you were on a road and you fight a battle, and this blew my mind back then, and then there's an actual road on the map, on the battle map, and
yeah, it's definitely the two extreme ends of the scale that draws you in, and you feel like you control everything. So
yeah, that's a perfect way to say it. It's like they've done it both sides really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, with I think specifically a majority of people would have entered on Rome Total War.
Yeah, I entered on Rome. That was me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Same here. But
Yeah,
I
so
had
a lot of people would-
I had no idea what I got myself into really. I saw this cool dude on the front page. I think it was about, when was Rome released now again? I don't really have that in my head, but it must have been around 2000.
2004, I think.
Sorry?
Was it 4?
Yeah, something like that.
2004.
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah,
2004.
yeah.
2004. I was going to say 2003, but yeah.
Yeah, 2004, correct. And at that time, I wasn't really, I didn't know anything about it, but it looked cool, and it seemed to have a rather groundbreaking. The graphic difference was obviously quite intense. Kind of like the same difference from, how should you put it, from medieval to empire. That was a huge jump as well. Really just brought it into like the 2010 sort of, or 2009 when it got released, that kind of era's graphics. So I got into it. Never played campaign though. I thought that was way too hard in my age. I don't know how old you guys are, but I bet I'm the same age as some of you. And I figured that was too hard. I never got into it, so I decided to just play battles. And sooner or later I started liking it more. But that Rome was basically the first thing I got into.
Yeah. Well, my actual first experience was that I didn't know, because I was really young. So, I don't know. I think it was 10 or 11, maybe 9 or something when I first got Shogun. I don't know why I started playing at that age, but I didn't actually know that when Rome came out that it was connected for some reason. And I don't know why, but when I actually played the game, I didn't know that you could go down onto the battle and fight it. And it took me so long. I used to just play the campaigns, and obviously when I was young, I didn't really understand all the finer points of the economy and stuff like that. So my kid was riding and stuff. I didn't understand what was happening. And I finally figured out you could fight the battles, and it like absolutely blew my mind having the fact, you could go down there and fight.
For me, it was the other way around. For me, it was the other way around because I got into Rome because of a TV show. They used
they used Time Commander, correct?
Time Commanders, yeah. They used Rome Total War, so I used to watch that TV show, and then I happened to see Rome Total War in a shop, in a games shop, and I looked at the back and I was like, hang on a minute, that's exactly the same as the TV show I like. So then I bought it, played it, and then I ended up playing campaign, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I was the other way around.
It's crazy.
On my side, I spent a lot of time on the first medieval, and I was in my 20s at the time. I'm 36 right now. I was in my 20s at the time working for Games Workshop, and when you get into battles and figures and all that kind of stuff, I picked up Rome Total War, and my day was basically 12 hours at Games Workshop and 12 hours on Rome Total War. Sleeping during this time was kind of an option. So I really got into it, and yeah, the battle compared to the first two games, compared to the first bunch of games, Rome Total War, the battles were really smooth. Everything was moving really fast. I couldn't find anything wrong about the game. Of course you have to get used to the campaign part, the campaign map part with the economy and try to balance your thing, because you can easily build huge armies and unfortunately go broke. And that happened to me a couple of times, but I spent a lot of time because most of my time on the Rome Total War, I gotta say that was one of the big thing that really got me into Total War was Rome Total War.
Yeah, well, even though I started on the original medieval, I think I was too young really to know what I was doing most of the time. But when I got into Rome, it was insane because the camp on the medieval original, it was like more like the campaign map was more like chess. You could just move armies between like provinces.
Yep.
It wasn't like in Rome where you move them just like you can move them just a little bit or whatever. You can move them around and maneuver your armies like correctly. Whereas that was just like moving there to there, lift it, drag and drop, and the like Pia said, ColdMeat. The battles, everything was really smooth, and in the previous games they were more like twitchy, and in this game they just moved really smoothly, and it looked more like a film. And I just loved like setting up battles and playing them.
Yeah, the camera movement on the battle thing was fantastic on Rome Total War.
Yeah.
Finally, we could control the camera around the battle. That's what I really like.
You have to though admit this, that if you've compared Rome, the unit response has gone down. Don't you think that like in Rome it had this sort of complete, when you ordered a unit to run that way, they all started running that way. But today, when you order a unit to go somewhere, I think it's of course fairly more realistic that all the units just can't break off the combat. But you always have to spam the bloody button, like get out of there, you bloody cavalry. But in Rome they instantly ran away. I hate Cav in every Total War game. As soon as I get Cav, send them into the spearmen, get rid of it. No, but seriously, I'm not the. But you have to realize it was so more responsive back then. That's why you could play it more professionally, and why a lot of players still, like the pros, stick to Rome today, because it's just more like a how should I put it? It has more of a professional online sort of scene and unit response. But yeah, really,
definitely.
Well, talking about the unit response and all that, I think if anyone has like a point on how different units were fighting and stuff like that, anyone have like specific units or factions to point out in since this podcast is basically about just the gameplay itself. Anyone have any specific factions in Rome Total War that they thought were like unique, other than like a majority of people know how the Romans work. So I think we can focus on some of maybe the different factions.
I'd say the Greek phalanxes were a bit too OP.
Overpowered.
Yeah, just camping
and there still are. There still are, in my opinion. If you still play Rome Total War, if you played, we still have. We have this formation in Medieval 2 Total War also. I mean, it's still overpowered. That's my opinion. That's why a lot of people play Greek campaign. Well, and the other part of half of them play for the phalanx formation. The other half played because they've seen the movie 300. And and all they want to do is scream Sparta, during the gameplay. But no, that was really smooth. You guys I know a lot of you guys, probably all of you, got into Medieval 2 Total War also after that, right?
Yeah, that's the first release, like after Rome, and I got into that more and more, and you learn a lot when you play. Like, for an example, I'm not going to go off track, but I got a game called Empire Earth, the first one.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yes.
In any game, that was like in any game. I was like trying to get my mom to help me. Why am I stuck on the Stone Age? The enemy has rifles, and I didn't know anything. And I used builders to fight and everything. But I mean, really, it just really comes with age, really, that you start reading and seeing more things. Anyhow, as I got more interested, Rome Medieval was really good, but for me, was kind of a disappointment. Back then I was sitting on a pretty old PC and everything. I never really had the sort of feeling for proper hardware. I spend money on it either, and never did my parents find use in it either, because in that age, I wasn't going to have my own money to spend on anything. So it was a bit of a disappointment, since it was such a lift in performance. But with time, I started enjoying it more. But the first release that I found the most enjoyment for, that I was really excited about, was probably Empire, because muskets to me is my preferred type of warfare. Some people like Roman warfare, some people like medieval, but I just, after watching the Patriot, Gettysburg, and all those movies, having like proper line battles was just like the wet dream for me. It couldn't get any better, to be honest.
Yeah, I got into Empire Total War after watching Sharp's Rifles.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Sharp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Good
Sharp's
series.
so cool.
My favorite TV show.
Too bad they could have spent a little more money on the series itself and made it a little more bigger, but it was a really good series.
The
Yeah,
only thing that
still well
Sean
done.
Bean hasn't died in yet, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
He dies in everything else, but not that.
In everything.
Mhm.
No,
everything.
I gotta say that like it amazed me that it had such a. I think it's just because people are very fanatic Total War fans, but at the point when I heard that they were doing Empire, I kept thinking that it was gonna fail. You know, I just couldn't wrap my mind around having the fact that they're not gonna include that whole vicious melee fighting in it anymore.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't
there was
understand how they're gonna do it.
there was a part of me that, like you said, I was a bit cautious about it. I was like, how is this going to work? Is it going to actually do well? But I think it was because in Medieval you got the introduction of gunpowder sort of halfway through the game or something. And then you could use like cannons and things. I think that I was so excited about the fact that they were making a new game that primarily focused on things like rifles and cannons that I just didn't really think about whether it would fail or not. I was just focused on getting it and then trying it out for myself.
Yeah.
And also giving us access to the world map, not just
Yeah.
the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, the world finally.
Yeah.
Except still we can't, you know,
Asia.
in Empire Total War you can't, you know, really touch Asia, but
Not
we have
South
games
America
for
either.
that.
Parts of it.
Yeah, but the
But
rest,
really, yeah.
it was a big game. It is a big game.
I mean, it stretched to the areas where the nations would be sort of appearing, like the colonies and everything. They weren't too far into South America, neither were they too far into the west of America either. So, like, it was just great, really, and they include a lot
They kept
of.
it quite.
Yeah, they gave a hint of Napoleonic warfare by the end of it. It spanned from like 1700 to 1800, I think. So
Yep.
you could have like some pretty fast shooting muskets, and you also had what's it called? Green jackets, I think, which remind me a lot of the Napoleonic units with the shakos and everything. First units have shakos. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the weaponry and stuff, like the gameplay itself, obviously, as people could probably tell when the game came out, changed a lot with just setting up those giant line formations across the front, where you just got these guys shooting at each other instead of running in all the time. I think a lot of people adjusted to the gameplay pretty well. Maybe because it has you still feel familiar with the gameplay when you did first play Empire. At least that was my experience with it.
Yeah.
So I thought it still felt familiar. Just it's hard to explain. At the same time, you got to change up the strategy you're using. You're no longer just charging in bayonet. Or some people do that. I'm sure you guys always bayonet charge.
And the thing is, on my side, I always think Empire Total War, in my opinion, is a bit like playing with clones after a while. It's really your army is pretty much composed of always the same thing.
Yeah.
If you change
that's
that,
true.
well, and you can't really change it actually.
There's some mods
you're
that
playing
do
with
it
clones.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
think-
a fair amount of mods that change it, though, but...
I think
it's mainly
probably
just going to be... Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry. I think probably my biggest disappointment with Empire was the fort battles were just.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, you play like the first, I don't know, 3 or 4, and you think, oh, this is really good fun, this is great. You get star forts that are huge and things like that, and then you play it more, and it's sort of like, oh, another one, let's play that, and then it's like there's no variety. I mean, the only differences in forts is like where you're fighting. Like in India, they'll have like an Indian style walls and things like that. You fight in Europe and in America, and they're all the same. There's not really a lot of variety, I don't think.
Well, just to bring up the thing about sieges and stuff, I think where Rome had amazing sieges, like they were just absolutely epic, especially when you take the capitals of, the historical nations and stuff like that. We take Carthage and things. Especially when I finally found out you could use sappers. Those guys are insane.
To blow the walls up.
Yeah, they've got like the guys that I think they've still got sappers, aren't they? They do that like the tunnel under.
Yeah.
And, they undermine the wall and stuff like that. And then Medieval Total War just had. I remember when I first played it, and they brought in the. I think the Barbarian Invasion expansion brought in night gameplay, right? To the Total War franchise, I think it was.
I think so,
Yeah.
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 For me, the Viking invasion was really unbalanced. That's my thing. I played Vikings on this one, and as soon as you actually get the Viking, the Berserkers, I'm gonna call them Berserkers because they bring Berserkers in every single game now. As soon as you get those, that was the end. All you had to do is get 2 or 3 units of those and whatever you want in cannon fodder around, and you just charge in, and it was the end of the battle. So Viking invasion for me, they didn't bring a lot. It was difficult. If you pick another nation, it was a bit difficult. But if you stop the Vikings really quick at the beginning, there's no real challenge, and it's actually pretty boring because you don't have a lot of variety in troops in this expansion. But still cool though. It was still a really nice expansion.
It brought some nice changes to the game, especially when they brought in the Huns, I believe.
Yeah.
And the Vandals and stuff. You could play as the Vandals, and they obviously they were very I'm pretty sure that the Vandals were the more horse based faction. I think I'm pretty sure, were they?
Yeah.
So that brought a nice change to where it usually plays the Romans, or the main factions back then were very based on just their main infantry line.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was a nice change to players' units to have to harass the lines with missile cav, and you can't really always go toe to toe with the imperial units of Rome, especially at that point.
I think I like
yeah.
how Barbarian Invasion brought also a new challenge to beating other factions. You couldn't just take their capital for some of the factions. You had to, because otherwise, if you took all their provinces, all the people would just basically up and then move as like 5 full stack armies. You had to actually like kill all their generals, and then they would all be defeated. And I thought that was quite a good challenge because it meant, I've beaten them, and then all of a sudden, all of these people just suddenly come into your province. It's like, oh, whoops, I can't take this on. So it makes it that much more challenging, which I quite liked. It did get a bit annoying sometimes, but
Yeah, one of my favourite battles ever was I played as the Franks and I took over France, but then about 5 or 6 like Hunnic stacks just like came over and just like camped outside my place and were gonna take my capital, and I had like 3 Frankish stacks, and I had this massive night battle. It was one of the most epic ever, where I just let the AI command my other armies, and all the Huns came on like at once, and the battlefield was huge, and there was all these fire arrows going off at night. It was immense.
Yeah.
And you could swim, I think. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
was that in the original one. No, I don't think it was.
I
think you died when you went in the river.
I remember, yeah, you could just, and then for the first time you could bring your units across, and you're just sitting there with anticipation they don't get hit by arrows as they're coming across the rivers.
Isn't that the only Total War game that's got swimming in it? I think it
so
is.
far.
I think so, yeah.
I took it out because it was pretty pointless, really, to have
Yeah.
like the horses.
Yeah.
You'd charge your horse, so they just stop and they do this weird animation and just float across.
It'd be cool to be able to swim though. I have a photo somewhere. It's a drawing of I think Portuguese soldiers during Napoleonic era, all dressing down to nothing but their musket and ammo belt, swimming across the river to secure a bridgehead. And it would be kind of cool though, because it would allow people to actually get around. They'd be vulnerable, but if you want to really just use your numbers to sort of secure, go ahead, like, yeah.
Well, I'm sure they'll bring it into it. I'm not 100% sure, but it might be a factor in the new Rome, since they bring in they want to mix naval warfare. And I'm saying maybe if they have now, they're saying that they're gonna have long rivers flowing in the middle of a map and then meeting up at like a lake or so, I don't know, meeting up where the branches out towards the ocean. You can have naval battles going with the land battle. I'm sure that maybe you can sneak units across the river.
Yeah.
I just don't want to break the line, but we were talking about Empire Total War. The next after that in the series, Napoleon Total War, that most people consider as just an upgrade for Empire Total War, right?
Yeah.
This is definitely the game that they put everything in the battles. There's nothing on the campaign map in Napoleon Total War. It's all in the battles.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Do you think the Empire Total War battles were more interesting to play, or the Napoleon Total War battles?
I think Napoleon for sure, for me at least.
Yeah,
Well,
I would probably say I enjoyed Napoleon ones maybe that little bit better, but I don't know. It's quite a close one, I think.
I'm gonna have to say Empire, because I think that Empire with the muskets weren't as accurate. It was more bloody, more melee, more like it felt more sort of I don't know, just the whole colonial fighting against tribes and still seeing men use pikes and everything. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool as well.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the point you brought up, how they weren't as accurate, that actually annoyed me so much. You'd line up 2 units, and they would fire off shots, and 3 people die. I'm like, just hurry up and
Yeah.
build up a team. It just annoyed me. And then the cannons weren't that good. That's why I like Napoleon with the technological upgrade, and then and you know the graphics and the sound and everything. It was awesome when you had a giant artillery battery firing across. You know,
Yeah.
the cannons would ricochet off, and it would leave that the imprint on the ground, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just awesome.
I wonder what
graphics
they will do to the. Sorry, I wonder what they will do to the when it comes to campaign map. And you said Napoleon is kind of empty. I'm a bit disappointed that you don't have any diplomats anymore, because
No.
well,
You don't have anything.
like I think no, exactly. You don't have anything. You do everything from a panel, and I wonder if in Rome 2, if they will bring back the diplomat or if they will keep the old system. Because I think that would be. I mean, in Rome and everything, you had like assassins, you had merchants. Like
Yeah.
that is brilliant. Like it was
That's what I
it
like
was-
in medieval. That's what I like in medieval too. Total
Yeah,
War.
medieval,
You get a
yeah,
bunch
that's
of
what I mean,
agents. You get a bunch of agents, and you could actually build a strategy with agents. Or, you know,
Yeah.
with spies and assassins, and you could do something with those. This is all gone. I mean, we're not gonna talk about the rake or the gentleman in Empire Total War. They are not really useful. I mean, except for studying stuff and getting research done. The rake is there to just have an eye around, but that's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
agents are not very useful. I've seen agents also in Napoleon Total War. There are agents, but they're not useful. It's the same thing. You
Yeah, I
couldn't
really like
build-
using them as spies and send them out into fog of war, like the uncharted territory.
Exactly.
Um,
That's what I do too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's since the research in Napoleon Total War is a bit limited. You don't need to put all your gentlemen in one school to boost it. You know, to boost your research time. You just send them forward and have a look in front. That's what I
Yeah.
do. But I do hope that in the Rome 2, they bring us a bunch of agents that we can play with that actually change
Yeah.
stuff, and we can move them on the map. That'd be really cool.
Well,
I
think,
don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, but like, well, one person's perspective on this would be, or Tom, what do you say about like medieval's use of agents and so forth? What do you reckon?
I don't know really. So I haven't played much of Empire or Napoleon. I'm sort of more into Roman medieval. I don't know really. Put me on the spot.
What would you say though? Like, when you play a lot of third age and stuff.
Yeah, I play a
the
lot of
model,
third age now.
Would you say that like the agents were a positive in that retrospect? Because I missed, like, I didn't have a computer at the time to play medieval, so I came into medieval after Napoleon and stuff, because that's when I got my brand new computer. So
Oh, yeah.
you have some more experience. Or Chris as well. You have, all of you really have it, but Tom, you haven't said a lot anyway. So
Yeah, I know.
give
Yeah.
us an opinion
Well,
on what you reckon the agents.
You know, in Shogun, I had this one ninja that was an expert assassin, and I also sent him to. It was really part of my main strategy to like stop armies. You know how you could sort of sabotage them and they couldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that feature was awesome, and I thought the agents in Shogun were actually pretty good, apart from the diplomacy and still being on the panel. I think that was the only thing, but the agents, like the ninjas and stuff, they were pretty good. So if they have the spies and the assassins like they did in Shogun, I think that'll be fine in Rome 2.
I think they're going to have to bring back the diplomats though, because, well, if they are saying that it's going to be this massive global map again, like the scale of empire and so forth,
Yeah, you
They're
won't
gonna need
like
to bring
Rome
back-
won't be able to talk to like
yeah,
Bactria or something.
Because,
like,
you're
gonna have to
even
send a
though-
diplomat.
yeah, even though it wasn't a massive difference in communications, they did get around quicker, obviously, in empire when at that time compared to back then. I don't know, it's hard to explain because there are different examples of like how quickly news spread in Rome as well. They had a very good courier system, like set up to have message, like, So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see how it happens, really.
I like your
But we
point.
should
I
focus
just
on-
I just like having real diplomats and move them around just for the reason that I don't understand in Empire Total War how do you freaking communicate with the other nations? They use what, pigeons? What do they use?
Because
and
you gotta
we-
think in Empire it's a lot more civil though, whereas you know, some in points in like in Empire, you send over a diplomat and stuff, and it's like an event when they show up, and then they have a seating with the king, and the emperor or whatever, whoever's in charge and stuff like that. And I don't know, things become a lot more civil, and we're in Rome, and I'm sure in medieval, like, you know, if a diplomat rocks up and the king's not happy, just beheads him and sends him back. You know,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't very like back then. I don't think diplomats were used to the point to build giant strategies. I think as people would use them in the game. That's my look at it though. Like they'll just use it for the simple fact of peace, or we declaring war. If they even did send a diplomat to declare war, then some people would just attack.
Mhm.
But things like that. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think we should like this podcast. I think we should move back onto the gameplay side of it. And do you guys want to stick on Napoleon or move it to Shogun or something like that?
Well, one thing we didn't talk about was the naval battles in the Empire and Napoleon. What do you think about them?
Oh yeah, they were so hyped
I like-
up, but then when they got out, then we're like, meh. You know, after a while, like, to me that was.
Well, I had to speed them
It's
up.
just so slow. It's just so slow. Sorry, but
Yeah, it's no
It
time
is.
either.
The
Almost
thing about
no
they
time.
didn't exactly have propellers on their boats back then. They had to
No,
rely on
I know.
wind, so it's not going to be super fast. But I think the fact that they included naval battles in the first place was quite exciting. You know, when I first heard they were bringing naval battles into Empire, that was it. I was going to buy it no matter what happened. And then when they did Napoleon ones, they included things like you could repair your ship in the middle of a battle as long as it wasn't being attacked or something. You know, that kept it afloat and stuff. I mean, I fought a battle where my ship was pretty much leaning to its left, pretty much half submerged in water, but it was still firing because I keep getting my people to repair it, and it just stayed afloat the whole time. And then I liked how in Shogun they actually in Shogun Fall of the Samurai they actually included, you know, the first person shooting, which I thought was quite an interesting feature to add as well.
Yeah. Well, that was their first attempt at bringing that whole thing. One of the selling points of Rome Total War 2 is making the whole thing a lot more human, like, if that's the word, to bring it closer towards the units. Like the examples are using Gatling gun, and you're at that level and you're just mowing down units of soldiers running at you. So yeah, they did well with that, and especially with all the blood effects and stuff. But yeah, like without going too far from the naval battles thing, they were just. I know you already said like they didn't have propellers and stuff. It was just so utterly slow though, especially if you're against
It is.
Marines.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You're just sitting there, and the only time I was ever happy was when like sometimes I'll just sit there and like stuff it. I don't move at all, and all I did was just research, so I got steam ships. And you just gun them around everywhere, and
I don't know. I think I didn't enjoy like small battles. I just small naval ones. I just auto resolve. But if you got like I don't know, Marcus, you know when we played Napoleon and it was the big ship battle between Spain and Great Britain. Once you sped up and the ships got quite close, it got quite intense and exciting. Like
yeah, that's the thing. Well,
letting
once
this
it kicks in,
bolding and
yeah,
things.
it gets pretty epic. Like especially with the graphics of Napoleon and all the explosions and the guys are flipping off the boat, and you got the debris floating past your ships and stuff like that. That's all epic. And the explosions, of course. You know, when you take out a ship and you hit its gunpowder reserves, I think it is, if you hit a certain critical point.
Boarding is pretty lame though sometimes. That can be
Yeah.
like, but it's I mean, it's a good addition to the game. Like you shouldn't turn down naval battles really.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's just got their like personal opinions on what they prefer. Like so far, looks like ColdMeat. I don't really like the slow thing. That's what I think Shogun changed it up with having a more as like I think they Creative Assembly called it more like moving fortresses. They're bigger boats. Where it's just like these platforms or units would jump across and fight.
But at this point though, I gotta agree with you guys. The small naval battle are a bit boring. When you get into a big naval battle, let's say a 10 ship against another 10 ship, it's really interesting. At this point, I really don't mind the speed when it's that, because you have the time to look at your ships, turns, and everything. You have you can play the thing, and you can consider each of your ship as a unit. So it's a lot of fun when it's a big battle. But if it's a small one, I mean, you're trying to sink one ship. you might as well just auto-resolve it. I mean,
for me,
Yeah.
I think I don't mind the big battles, like the 10v10 as you said, but the type of battles I really love is when I have maybe 3 or 4 sort of medium to large size ships, sort of say 5th rate or 4th rates, and I send them against a huge light fleet that completely outnumbers me, and you have that challenge. You've got these bigger ships, but they've got the numbers and the speed. It's like, I like going up against outnumbering fleets. I like the whole challenge of that because it means now you've got to focus. You've got to really move your ships around. You've really got to pick your targets really well. And, I prefer that in comparison to sort of like a 10v10. I like doing me with 3 or 4 against 10 or 12 enemy ships. I think that's probably more exciting for me. But that's just my opinion on naval battles, though.
Yeah, turns into like a big game of snooker with the angles and everything, like trying to get all the angles right.
Yeah, trying to pop off a shot and stuff. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what did you
Getting
guys
the
actually think
broadsides.
about what do you guys think about the like the fine tuning of the ships with their stats, and did you think any ships were overpowerful they should have been in, or just aspects of the gameplay of naval warfare you don't think they should have added?
not for me. Not for me. I think it's
Not
really
for me either, no.
yeah. For the Empire
I think they did a pretty
and
good job.
Napoleon Totalwar, yeah,
Yeah.
the ships are nice, well designed. Everything is apparently, because I'm not an expert in that kind of thing, but are historically correct or accurate. So it's nice. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have a battery of 50 cannons on each side of your ship. You can't boost your ship, by putting metal on it or stuff like that. Not anything that's out of this, out of historical proportions. I mean, so that's why I like it. I think it's well balanced.
You can get ships with more than 50. I'm pretty sure the first rates like.
Well, that's like 50 cannons in total, though. The number is it might say it's 20 It might say this ship has 20 cannons, but what it means is it has
10 on
like,
each side.
Yeah, each side, yeah.
It'll have like 8
Yeah.
on each side and then 2 at the front. That's how it sort of balances things out.
Yeah, but
The
don't
thing
some
is-
of the first rates hit like 125 cannons and stuff like that, or is that just me?
Yeah, no. For
Remember.
there's several different ships. There's a first ship of the line,
Yeah.
and then there's just a regular first rate. Basically the first ship of the line is just basically let's make a mobile cannon fortress, and that's how they were. Send as many cannons into one place as possible. But the I mean that's you guys are saying if we're going to be moving on from naval battle to something else. I was thinking about discussing Shogun's naval battles because they kind of went back a bit. Like with Empire and Napoleon, the first 2 games to have naval battles, you were used to cannons and the kind of whole shooting part. But in Shogun, it's not very dramatic having people firing arrows at each other, in a naval battle.
Fire
So
arrows! Fire arrows! Right now!
I found it was very easy to set another ship on fire. Very
Way too
easy. Like
Me
2
too,
volleys
yeah.
and then that's it. That ship's on fire, and it's like a 50-50 chance that they'll either surrender or the ship will just sink.
Well,
So
Yeah, exactly.
I think it just translated over from the land gameplay, how they simplified it a lot to make it fast paced, and you just got units and they just row at each other because they didn't use the sails and stuff. So they row at each other. You get up close. If you board them, and that's it. If you have the especially if you have a ship that's higher than the other one, you have the arrows. Of course, that's gonna help out. You got the higher ground, and you set them on fire, and you're done. Like it was very fast paced, and in terms of the graphics and stuff, even though it had a better engine. Obviously, the ships back then didn't have all those mad intricate details that the ships in Napoleon had. Obviously, the time difference and stuff like that. But it lost that whole. For me, at least, it didn't have that grandeur of what Napoleon had, which is a bit strange since I think.
I really liked
it went back.
I really liked the battle maps in Shogun 2 and Fall of the Samurai as well. Like how in Empire and Napoleon, whenever you fought a naval battle, even if your fleet was in a port and it was blockaded and you went out to meet them or something, you would fight in an open sea. There wasn't really anything apart from water and your ships, whereas in Shogun 2 they introduced land and islands, which meant
Yeah,
you had to
little
move
islands,
ships
yeah.
in certain directions. And then in Fall of the Samurai they even included ports as well, so now your fleets can actually fight their way out of the ports they're docked in, which I thought was really, really good additions to the map itself when you fought in naval battles.
That's what's missing in Empire and Napoleon Total War. That's what's missing. I mean,
definitely.
there's nothing. You always fight on an open sea. There's absolutely nothing around. There's no island. You have no other situation than just the open sea, the wind, and the two fleets. I think that's what makes maybe naval battle for probably most of the Total War players listening to us a bit boring.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah.
I think also I had on my Steam, I took a screenshot of it, but when I first played Shogun, my first naval battle experience, first thing I saw other than my ships was whales. They have like whales and fish and everything swimming around in the ocean. It's not just water. They actually had whales, and I was like, oh my god, there's whales jumping up.
So do you
They
think we
actually
should
made-
have? Do you think we should have live animals running around the field?
More ambient
like
battlefields.
cows and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That'd be
Notice how
really
the
cool,
trees,
actually.
notice how the trees and everything were like swinging around in Shogun, and how everything was way more like ambient and more wildlife. I think you could even catch a deer or two on the battlefield. Could you not? Like,
I'm not sure.
Going back
I
to-
think
yeah.
that
Sorry,
would be crazy
I was
though,
just-
to have since they're bringing in the animations for the elephants and stuff, and hopefully they bring back the war dogs, and well,
The
there's
wolves.
pigs scored. There's
Incendiary
pigs you
pig.
set on fire.
The incendiary
Oh.
pigs.
Yeah.
Going
The
back to your
heroes
point,
of the battlefield.
going back to your
What
point,
I'd
Max,
like to see is
about how they went backwards with the naval battles in Shogun. I think it was actually, now that Rome 2's been announced, I think that was when I look back at it, that was kind of a good thing, because it sort of got you into the naval battles with, without sails and cannons and stuff. And when Rome 2 does naval battles, it's going to be fairly similar, but back in ancient Rome, the whole point of a ship was that you picked up as much speed as you could and you would ram
Ram
the
them,
side
yeah.
of the ship.
Yeah, exactly,
And there's going to
exactly.
be a lot
Yeah.
of that
That's
in
the
naval
front.
battles, which I'm really
But then-
excited for.
They went on and made Fall of Samurai. They went on and made Fall of Samurai, which obviously changed everything up. And then with Rome Total War 2, I reckon that what I'm still yet, like, obviously we haven't found out yet if the units on the boat are going to be their own units, like, or are they going to be just like the ship's crew. Like, if you know what I'm trying to say, like,
Yeah. So yeah.
are the soldiers on the boat going to be their own unit that you've placed on the boat, or will they have their own just like defensive units and
Yeah.
things like that? So
Mhm.
they said they've already announced that of course they're going to have that harpoon style gun that shoots into the side of the ship, like the ballista that shoots into the side of the ship and pins them down, so they can't
Mhm.
move. So I actually think it's going to be a lot more where Shogun was you shoot with the arrows and stuff. I think this one's going to be they have the catapult on the boats and stuff firing. I reckon it's going to be very epic, just like Napoleon, where you did have those ships pulling up against each other. Mainly because it's probably going to have a lot more units on the screen now. When they said they're going to have massive fleets, like it's no longer
Yeah.
one boat per thing. It's you buy
Yeah.
a boat and it's 10 in like
But
a
I-
section, so.
But I don't think they'll bring us massive fleet battles. That didn't happen during Roman time.
Well, it
massive
did in
fleet.
some points. So you have like Rome, the Romans getting defeated multiple times by the Carthaginians with like
Yeah.
200 boats. Whether that's exactly historical, right? So from what I've read, it's like the Romans constantly lost like fleets of like 200, against the Carthaginian fleets. But they're saying that it's going to be massive, and whether they pull it off correctly or not, because it is that mix between fast-paced action and they want it like land battles, like they've said so many times. They want you to use strategy and lining up different types of boats to counter
Mhm.
different types of the other ships. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
think,
One
like
thing is
you
going to be
said,
interesting. Yeah, sorry,
Oh,
no,
sorry,
you
you
go
go
ahead
first.
and I'll be after. Okay, okay.
I was going to say,
Gent-
just sort of...
Delay
you go ahead.
doesn't make it easy.
So
Okay, I'll
who's
go
going?
ahead. I'll go ahead.
All right.
Women first. All right, I'm joking. Okay. One thing is interesting though when we're talking about how you're going to be able to land units on beaches and everything. in Total War, they've never gone back. They've never ever taken a step back. Say, well, let's introduce naval battles here, and then let's remove them, or let's say let's introduce sieges here, and then let's remove them for the next game. So whatever happens after these, this Rome 2, we are gonna see, if we see Empire 2 or Napoleon 3 or anything like that, we are gonna see more connection between naval battles and actual land battles. Could you imagine having these big frigates like landing boats with rowing apart with like companies and landing on the beach fighting? That would be awesome, to be honest.
I
That
think
would
that
be-
the first evidence that they sort of linked naval with land battles was in Fall of the Samurai, when you could see your fleet. If it was in range of the battle or something, you could call naval bombardments, and if you were right by the coast, you could actually see your fleet in the distance. I think that was probably the first linked between naval and land battles that they actually put together. So
Yeah, but like, what more can they do with naval with the cross with coast other than go forward in unless they return back to medieval and then they redo the things which no one's going to complain about. You know, it's just going to get better with another medieval and or like another, maybe they go back to the Napoleonic times and stuff like that. But you know, naval like coastal landings. As far as I know, I'm sure you know more about this, Diplex, because you play all the Napoleon or the Mountain Blade and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did they do a lot of those coastal landings in terms of like they hit the beach, they run off?
Indeed. Like the thing is, it would be awesome to see Marines first, because each ship had a detachment of Marines on board who always landed first. Of course, when Napoleon, you know, took his time to go to the Peninsular War, we saw a lot of landings back and forth, and there weren't any. How should I say? They never really got under fire during the landing. Back then, people were still so gentlemanish, or how to put it, so that they let's let this enemy board here, and then we'll fight him on the field across the river the other day. You know, they didn't line up shooting at them, but there were times where they hit posts, but only Marines went ashore in maybe 100, 200. So no D-Day scenarios. No.
Yeah, because that's I was about to say. A lot of people would associate coastal landings with World War II or World War One.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to how they're going to play that out. Like I'm amazed that like obviously we all know that they did do coastal landings in the Roman era and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm amazed at how epic they're making it look.
Yep.
With the landings, and it you know it looks like it's like an ancient era D-Day basically, that taking Carthage
Yeah.
to the coast.
Look at the chat. I'll post a quick little thing there, a picture for you people, so you can see what it would look like.
Oh,
I like Troy the film, you know, big beach
Yeah,
landings.
that's a perfect example of that.
When I first heard of that, I just imagined that film.
That's the one thing I hope they do when they jump off. They form up a shield wall. I hope they can. I hope they
Yeah,
do
and
that,
then
'cause
march
that would just
forward.
yeah. Then they just like move in that mad like
Yep.
like formation, like the type of dome, and then they move up, and then they break apart and they run up the beach. And you have those what are those things called again? There's like a name, like you know the pikes sticking out the sand.
Stakes.
Yeah, stakes. Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
basically stakes.
So according to you guys, with all your experience in Total War, which one is the best game and which one offer the best battles?
That's a tricky question, but I think the Empire introduced the most thing. I think Empire kind of broke like loose. Like Rome could be compared to medieval and back and forth so many times. But I think for me, like both what I'm interested in, I'm gonna have to say that Empire brought most things to the table as far as it, but you know, when it happens with new things. So that's just what I'm gonna say.
I would agree that Empire brought the most things. For me, I've always loved like the ancient era or the medieval era. So, and I would probably, for me anyway, medieval was probably my most exciting battle game. I had more fun fighting battles in medieval than any of the others. But I agree with Diplex that Empire brought more to the battles than any of the others did.
Yeah, I would agree with
the rest?
Alex about Medieval 2 being the funnest battles. Or maybe Rome, just because of the separate cultures and like the clash of cultures fighting each other, fighting different units to yours.
Yeah, it was such a big difference too. Well, I think I don't want to keep this dragging on, but with medieval and Roman stuff, people were on such a different class level. You know, like you had some factions just had these like awesome units, whereas when they did get to the point of Empire and stuff, where it was an amazing game. I'm not gonna deny it's an amazing game, but you know, everyone seemed to, a majority of the factions seemed to be on a level playing field. You know, everyone had that line infantry, everyone had that thing, where some people had, you know, some elite units, of course, and you know, the Ottomans had bigger units yet not as good quality, but everyone just had their rifles, you know, where
Yep.
we had the Romans in Rome Total War 1, when you get to fight the Gauls, if you're not fighting their heavy axe infantry and stuff against some of your infantry, you just wreck their units, you know, with the Roman infantry. As from what I can tell, and the battles that I've fought, that you can just destroy them on, you know, without them being on like the terrain advantages and stuff like that. So yeah, oh yeah, we didn't talk about tactics.
Yeah, the thing is, because that's a question I want to ask also the viewers, because most of the viewers play Total War. That's a question I want to ask you guys. Maybe put an answer in the comments at the same time. Which Total War game gave you the best battles and the best moments, you know, in your history of playing Total War? I gotta agree with the other guys. In my opinion, Empire Total War gave us a lot of good stuff. Um, that's so. Marcus, did you want to maybe talk about a bit of tactics, maybe?
Yeah, well, just before we wrap this up, I think we'll just go over each of us the general tactics. Me personally, when I start off, I'll say that throughout my time, even though that a lot of people, like, you do have to use, you know, flanking force and stuff, but through my Total War experience, everything I use just always been brute force. Like, you just drive straight a wedge through the center of their line to then, you know, just encircle them. I never really was someone to use like, you know, very elite tactics or anything like that, and break up my armies into two different forces. Always just drove a wedge straight into the middle of the soldiers and hoped for the best that my units would cut them apart. So that's being completely honest. Even with Empire, you know, I'd fire off a couple volleys and then charge my men in and do what I can. But yeah, anyone else want to talk about their tactics, just in an overall sense of what they do?
Well,
Yeah,
I'd
for
usually
me,
just stick. Alright, you go
Oh,
first.
no, you go first. Okay.
So many
For
gentlemen in
me,
it.
cavalry played a big role. The hammer and anvil tactic is one that I use a lot, and I always find that it works very well. So whenever I build an army in any of the Total Wars, I always try to make sure I have 2 units of cavalry so that I can send one either side and just round and hit the back, or even their general or the sides or something. The cavalry always plays a big part. But I've also found that if you group like your forces into certain things, like I split my infantry between like groups 1 and 2, and then I have my archers as group 3, and then my cavalry is like group 4 or something. I always find that grouping actually helps with your tactic as well. So you can send like group 1 with like 3 units one way, and you can send, I don't know, group 2 with like another 2 units another way, and I've always found that grouping units helps as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, when talking about grouping units, I was wondering if, like, you know, how if it would be possible to in the future games to maybe have some sort of feature that lets you connect units in a better way. Like if I would group 3 infantry battalions that would form one massive line and have like the 3 color bears in the center with the officer and everything, you could split them. I think that'd be a nice feature, really. Not impossible to do at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
It depends on what the
Yeah.
creative assembly thinks, really.
Well, one of my main tactics was just stick most of the like defensive units on like one of the flanks, and then just have an overwhelming force on just another on the other flank, and just route the first like couple of units on that flank, and just do a chain reaction like right down the line. Just like just send them in a big wave like down the line, routing them. That would be my tactic. Or
That's how
send
an
and
anvil came in there.
yeah, just like overwhelm just one flank, and just do just a big chain. Or in sieges, I didn't understand people that keep the cavalry inside the settlement. I'd always like, as soon as it starts, send it out the gate and just let them cause as much damage as possible. Like hit the rams, stop them marching forward, get the towers, more chance to set on fire, things like that. Send them round, hit the archers, just cause a lot of devastation.
Like, it blew my mind when you said it, and I was like, what? it just never occurred to me to send my units outside of the safety of the walls. Like, obviously they don't have the maneuverability they do outside, but they could still do their part, you know, inside the walls. Like, if especially if you took the time to run them around the streets and wait for the units to get singled out, the enemy units to get singled out, you could just crush them with your heavy cav or something.
Alright, I like getting them getting the cavalry right out there because it tires them out because they chase the cavalry just like and gets the towers more of a chance to like shoot them. I just like leading them a merry dance.
Okay,
Alright,
I use the cavalry and I keep my cavalry inside my cities because I like doing what I call the two tower moves, exactly like in the Lord of the Ring movie. So I let the enemy come to the door, and when it's really bunch and I'm not really winning, I use my cavalry to just get in. And then normally my cavalry get out of the place at the same time and run over whatever is, running away. Um, but I don't know. I started Total War playing the what we call the noob box. So you,
Oh
you
god.
know this, everybody know the noob box, right? So the spearmen's in front, all your archers or in front of that or back of that a little bit, and then you place your catapult and you keep your cavalry. You split it and you put that on both side. It's kind of it's not an hammer and anvil because you use both side. So of course that always work all the time. For some of you that, some of you noobs to, or new to the Total War thing, just try the noob box. For sure that's going to work for you. But now I don't know, I'm kind of more having fun a little bit. In Medieval 2, I put my catapults only on one side, let's say, and I'm just like Sapphire. I like using cavalry a lot. I prefer having 2, 3, 4 units of cavalry that can easily go around and flank the enemy or charge the back. If everything's engaged, you can charge the back if everything is free. So I think flanking also breaks the enemy really, really fast. You get less, losses in your army. It's a lot better. Another thing I do now, though, is I stretch my line really, really long. It's kind of fun to pack units together, but if you stretch your line really, really long, you have this wraparound effect that you can get because there's always 1 or 2 units that will be, too far, so you just wrap them back. So that's another thing I use. But I don't know, it's just I haven't found any big strategy. I mean, I play more Empire and Napoleon right now, and Shogun 2. There's a lot more to do with Shogun 2, I think. That's my opinion. When you play the regular Shogun 2, there's a lot more to do, especially with skirmish, with the light cavalry, skirmish cavalry, because most of them are shooters. You can actually hit some unit pretty bad if you skirmish around with those units and then keep advancing your line. So it's something that it's a bit more micromanagement. I gotta give you that, but I think it's a lot more fun playing with different units. If you guys want to if you guys want to give yourself a challenge, just don't build your army the same way all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for a half an army of cavalry, let's say, or something like that. So it's really different when you play it. That's my
Like, I think if, like you just said about a challenge to give to the people, honestly, I think one of the hardest challenges, like, I never do it myself, but the house rules of those mods that are out, like Remus and Stainless Steel, like a challenge for that, I reckon just following those house rules are insane. I can't do that. Have you seen the house rules for that? It's
Yeah.
like it restricts your recruitment and what you can recruit and where and stuff like that. And
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, I play Stainless Steel like that with real recruitment, and
that's
because
insane.
it's because you're limited.
Yeah.
It makes so you don't sacrifice your unit. That's the thing. Even if they're weak, you don't sacrifice them.
Yeah.
You're gonna need them, and you retrain your unit also. That's another thing. So, and that's something I gotta say that retraining unit. That's something I always do. So, and I've been doing that since Medieval 2 Total War. It's just it's more it's just more micromanagement all the time.
Yeah. For sure.
That's a
We'll give one more person. Tom, do you have anything to say on your tactics you use, and mainly probably what I've seen you play as Third Age and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I think we haven't mentioned yet is using using trees and hill advantages in games that really does help. Like if you got all your archers on a hill, obviously you can have more of a range to whoever you're versing. So I like to put troops in the trees and attack. Well, no, just what I mean.
You like to use the terrain.
Mhm.
You like to use the terrain.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what I was
that-
looking
yeah,
for.
We completely missed that, but obviously you reminded me that all those units get bonuses in the woods.
Yeah,
So,
like especially
Highlanders or stuff
in
like
Rome Total War, like all the barbarians, like they get advantages in snow and woods.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
obviously, and teams like Egypt or Persia get advantages in
sand
yes
or the
and
desert.
stuff like that. Yeah, that's it.
But,
Yeah.
I think we completely forgot about the terrain, but I think Shogun was the main thing of terrain. That's what I've seen the most. Obviously, you see it in the other ones, but in Shogun you get like samurai units running down a hill towards Ashigaru units or towards another samurai unit. That's it. It's done. It's done within like not even a minute. The units will just cut them apart with the initial charge. Yeah, so terrain was a massive thing. We completely forgot about that, but yeah, terrain was a massive thing in Total War. Um, anything else anyone else wants to add to this?
No,
Nope.
not really.
I think so.
I'm fine.
I gotta say, I think the more you play, the more you discover stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and tactics. That's the thing. Or the more you look at maybe other people play also,
Yeah, for
the
sure.
more you
Well,
the more you
Yeah.
discover stuff.
I learned that maybe you can run the cav outside the castles from now on instead of just leaving it inside. So
Definitely,
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
can definitely.
do a hit and
it's a
run.
good thing to change it up. So yeah. Anyone else have any specific let's plays they would like to tell people to check out?
Hmm.
Or anything that anyone starting something new?
Starting something new. Oh my god. Make sure you guys. We talked about Rome Total War. So if you're a fan of the Rome Total War, the original one, or with the Dark Mode 8.1, maybe have a look at my channel. I have probably the most popular Rome Total War show at the moment. And if you
Yeah.
can't find it, just go in the search bar, just type Rome Total War and press enter. My show is right on top. So it's really not difficult to find. But I'll be playing that for a long time until probably Rome 2 comes out, just because it's a
Alright.
lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. So people check out that. SaphirePheonix, you have anything you want to say? With let's plays?
If you guys love Lord of the Rings style games, I've got Third Age going on. I'm always doing a Third Age series on my channel. There are so many factions to play, and I'm going through them one at a time. So if you love Third Age Total War, if you love the mod, then check out my channel. I've always got one going on.
That's
Alright,
right.
cool.
Sapphire is the Middle Earth king.
If
Yeah.
you like Napoleonic warfare, I'm doing like a in-depth roleplay styled British campaigner Darth Mod in the Peninsular War, where I'm naming all the regiments, using them in proper battalion tactics and all that stuff.
Nice.
If you're into that, check that
That's
out.
awesome. I might even
If
check
you're
it out.
into Total War and Game of Thrones, I'm doing a Stark's Let's Play on my channel, and it's going quite well, advancing south.
Mm.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Tom, you have anything?
Yeah, I have a lot of online Rome Total War. I did a lot of them where I first started off, but now I'm doing a lot of Third Age campaign and a lot of Mountain Blade. That's about it at the moment.
Okay, cool. So yeah, check it out. We'll have all the links in the description. I'm personally doing an Austrian campaign, which is going terribly. Everyone's ignoring me, so I don't know if I'm going to continue it, but I want to continue it, but with the world at war with me, doesn't look too good. So yeah, all the links for the host will be in the description. Make sure you check out the video, which should be an annotation right now, or maybe throughout the video, of the video me and WhiteEagle did, asking you guys to send in your multiplayer clips. So for another podcast which will be set up soon, will be some new host that mainly play the tournaments and stuff like that. So we have some hosts lined up who play Shogun tournaments and the older tournaments and stuff like that. Make sure you hit us up on our Facebook and Twitter. Both those will be in the description. And yeah, thanks guys for watching. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Marcus. That was a good time.